Okay guys, Fred here from Fred Wanacott Photography. I'm going to give you a little video on portrait retouching in Lightroom and CS5. This is just going to be the basics, nothing too fancy, just kind of good general portrait technique. We've got an image, I've imported it, I convert to DNG. There's a lot of debate over whether you should or shouldn't. I personally, nothing wrong with DNG. It's still a raw format, it keeps all your data, it doesn't throw anything away. Perfectly cool for what I need to do. So, imported as a DNG, and I turned it into an 8x10 by doing an 8x10 crop. I shot this knowing I was going to go 8x10. I tend to think about my final image when I'm taking it, because that's a good habit to get into, because then you compose everything for the intended output rather than trying to make it from something that wasn't that way in the first place. So, all we need to do is a couple of things. This white line here on the scarf, that's a distraction. It's too white. It's white like the eyes, and now that's competing with your attention with the eyes of the subject. You don't want that. Your brain's going to go to the brightest thing in a scene first. That's how it processes an image. So we want to tone that down a bit. We don't want to make it black. That will look unnatural, but we'll tone it down, make it a grey zone, and then it's less of a distraction. It was a really cold day when we shot this. This was like, 6, 7 o'clock in the evening, -2. So the skin needs a little work. It's a little bit sort of not wrinkled, but you can see all the little fine details and hairs in it and bits and pieces. I want to smooth that out, make it look nice and glowing and warm and healthy. Maybe a little bit of pop on this hair. It's a little bit lackluster. It's not quite there yet. The eyes are pretty good. We might bring this one up to match the intensity of that one. Not too much. Don't want to make her look like she's, glowing eyes, Stargate SG-1 alien type look. But we'll make it pop. A few little bits of cloning here and there. It's just basics really, so let's get into it. First things first, over here we've got the lens correction. Turn lens correction on. I've got my Nikon, it's got a profile for it, my 24-70 AFS. That just takes out any distortion that's left in and evens out the edges to get rid of any vignetting. Good idea to use it. If there's a profile for your lens, why not have it there? And you can get profiles of pretty much any lens nowadays. There's very few that I've had that I can't get profile. So, colour balance. I shot a custom white balance, so it's not too bad. I would say the tint's a little bit too far towards the magenta side of things. I'd pull that back to around, +4 looks good. That's better. It's looking a little bit more natural. Exposure's good. I use a light meter everything so that I know it's right. I don't mess around trying to get exposure sorted afterwards. It's just bad practice, really. Highlights are good. Histogram shows me we got nearly something blowing out, but not actually going to pure white. That's what we want. We got a good solid black in there. It's pretty good. Shadows I might want to lift because we've got in a little bit here. There's sort of this black blob and you can't really see too much in this area. Whereas I want that gradation to show shape. Shadows define shape, so you want to pay attention to your shadows. Ooh. Helps if I'm using the right mouse. So we'll bring that up. There we go. Now we can see through here. Still got some skin tone and texture. This is cheeks lifted a little, maybe a little bit more. Yeah, that's pretty good. That's fine. But what we have done by that is bring up a little bit too much of this background, so we'll back that shadow off. Always remember, don't just look at what you're targeting, look at the whole image. That's alright, so we'll do that as a targeted adjustment. We won't do a general adjustment. Bring it a little bit, just to where this starts to change. I don't want it any brighter than that, so we'll stop. Vibrance will bring up a little bit. I deliberately put this bare strobe with a red gel on it because I wanted a really punchy, colourful shot. So we'll bring that up to around +8. That's pretty good. Don't want to go too far. And I like to use vibrance, not saturation, because then it doesn't affect the skin tones too much. That's pretty good. Detail, sharpening. This is ISO 400. This is on a full frame Nikon camera, so I don't have any ISO issues. What I tend to do for sharpening, for something like this, I'll do sharpen faces preset. Then I'll come in and adjust the mask by holding the Alt key, clicking on the mask slider. And we'll bring that up, just so we're not getting too much of the fine hairs. That's pretty good. And then we'll bring the sharpening up, around 40, 42, something like that. Go in 100%, make sure we're not overdone it, it's not breaking up. No, it's fine, lovely and sharp, cool. Okay, target adjustments next. Obviously I'm doing this quite fast because I'm used to doing it. I do this for a lot of images every day. Take your time the first time, you'll get speed as you go along. So, new adjustment brush, exposure, half a stop, something like that. Yeah. And we want highlights first, so we'll bring those up. And a bit of saturation, only a touch. Then we'll come in, make the brush a bit bigger using the bracket keys on the keyboard. We'll start brushing in these highlight areas. Just make them pop that little bit more. And just working around, looking where the light's fallen. There we go. And I use quite a low flow rate, or flow of 17, just because I don't, 100% you get that hard edge on it, you can see where you've brushed, you don't want that. Do it in small chunks and keep brushing over it till it comes up good. So now we'll hit a new brush. Now we'll deal with this area in here, and a bit of this fringe line here. So, highlights down, saturation down. Exposure, yeah, we'll keep a half a stop. We'll also chuck in, say, 37, something like that, between 30 and 40 of shadows. And start making a few sweeps in here. See how that's lifting that skin tone and texture out? Brush across and blend it in. And we'll do the same up here in the hair. Don't want to go too far. We're not trying to make it as bright as the face. We're just trying to show the texture and shape. There we go. That's good. I'm happy with that. Let's just lifted that up. Maybe we also might want to come in with that same brush. So click the little tab, shows you that brush. Just soften up this shadow here in the back of the nose. Don't want to get rid of it because that'll make the face look flat, but just soften the edges of it a touch. That's good. Okay. That's pretty. Ooh, one thing I do tend to do on something like this is grab another adjustment brush with some clarity and just run some clarity through that hair just to make it really snap and you can see the individual hairs like that. Maybe not that much actually. Back it off a bit. That's good. Right, so that's cool. That's all I'm really going to do in. Like, oh, hang on a minute, I just in a sensor spot down there. Could be on the sensor, could be a little bit of gunk on my lens. So we'll come in, here we go. Boom, gone, dealt with. There we go, that's good. Okay, so now we need to chuck this over to Photoshop. Use Photoshop CS5 at the moment. So edit in Adobe Photoshop CS5, render using Lightroom, because we want all those adjustments we've made to be in the image. It will create a TIFF, fire that into Photoshop, there we go. So now we want to zoom in. Then we'll go grab our healing brush tool, spot healing tool. Mode, normal, content aware, Don't want to be too big. That's a good little tip. Don't make your brush too big than the thing you're trying to deal with, otherwise you get some weird results. And just start tidying up little bits and pieces. Not too much. Make it a bit smaller. Some of these little hairs hanging down are a bit distracting, so I'll get rid of them. Like that. That's nice, that's nice. A few stray ones here. A little clump of makeup, or something there. Get rid of that. There. Yeah, that's cool. There's a shadow line there that I don't like. And there, and there. That hair looks out of place. That one. That one. This can take some time and it's personal preference. You'll get a feel for it once you've done it a few times. You'll clone things out that don't work, things that do work. You start to get your own feel. A few little things here. Get rid of that, get rid of that. Spot here, I'll get rid of that. There's a bit of a knack to where to place the spot healing, and do you just do a circle or do you draw a line, and you'll get it with practice. It's not something that you can really get into someone's head talking to them about it. You need to get in and try it. You'll start to figure out what works and what doesn't. Just keep the brush small is my main piece of advice. Get rid of that. See these little marks here, we'll get rid of them. Little specular highlights there I don't like. Get rid of them, that's cool. Something there, don't like that. And there. Alright, that's good, that skin's coming up better now. We're not worrying about this texture, we'll deal with that in a different way in a minute. I'll show you a nice, quick, super easy way to do it. I know it's not the one I use all the time, but it is a good one to start with because it's simple. That's cool. Okay. These here, this one and that one, not that one, this one, they're piercings, so I won't clone those out because it's a little bit rude to do that unless a model or a client has asked you to, because obviously they've paid to have that done. That's part of their character, so you wouldn't touch that unless requested. So we'll go in and do that. We're keeping these shadows because they inform and define the shape of your subject. That's good. That's pretty much all I want to do. Start seeing a few little extra things. There we go. That's good. So now we'll take our layer, click on it, drag it down to here. The little paper icon with the curled edge makes a copy. So we've got a second layer. We'll go up to filter, and then we'll go to Gaussian blur. And it's done I've used this quite a lot, so it's there. So that's about 5.5 pixels of blur. So that obviously at the moment now looks like it's all out of focus and terrible. So what we do is we press the Alt key and we hit this little icon down here, that little sort of grey paper with the white circle in it, which is our layer mask. Holding down Alt fills that layer mask with black, so that layer is concealed. Grab our brush, make sure the foreground colour is white, make sure the opacity is nice and low, 9%, and it's good to tick the airbrush tool because it just makes it a little bit more natural. Take your brush size down and do little sweeps along here where you can see those hairs. Careful here, where the brightest parts of the skin are is already very smooth, so if you went in and painted, it would go that sort of super airbrushed plasticky doll look, which in this image isn't what we're going for. We're just brushing in some of that blurred layer in here under the eyes. You don't want to put it on the eyes, you want the eyes to remain nice and sharp, and just a very light touch across there, smooth out that colour in the eye makeup along here. Just take down some of these sort of wrinkles that everybody has under the eyes where your skin moves around. Along here. And it's best to build it up in little short strokes rather than big painted sweeps, because you can always go back and undo it by pressing Alt and Z. Just get rid of that. That's kind of good. Along here, don't want to go too much into there, that's already quite nice. Maybe a little bit down here on the chin. A few quick, fast strokes to sort of blend that together. Big brush. That's pretty good. I'm kind of happy with that. Yep, that's fine. Okay, so that's the skin sort of smoothed out, and there's one last thing to do, which is to grab the brush tool, make sure we selected it, press the Alt button. Oh, and first make sure you're working on the actual layer, not the layer mask. And then select a medium tone by holding down the Alt key, you get the little eyedropper, click, make it really big. Bring it down to like 5% and just a few clicks. Just smooth out that skin. That's pretty good. And then we can adjust the blend on that blur layer by just clicking the opacity. So that's how we started. That's fully blended in how we've got it. And I may even back it off a touch to something like that, and just grab that white brush again. Now we're at 5%, and just redo this hairline because we've got little hairs down over here. There's a few shadows and things that need a little bit more. That's good. That's fine. I'm happy with that. Now there's a slight shadow here that I don't like. There's this nice informing shadow here, and then there's a blob, and I don't like the blob, so we'll grab this tool here, which is a little black pin. It's called Dodge tool. We'll use the midtones and a low exposure of 8%, and we'll grab first. Before we do that, we click over here in the actual layers section and hit merge visible, because we just want one layer. We don't want, not worried about any more skin smoothing. We don't want to work on a mask, we want the actual pixels of the image. Just a couple of clicks. Bring up the midtones, and we'll do the same with the shadows. A little bit smaller now, and just that little shadow area. There we go. Now that's looking better. Just blend that in. Right, now that is fine. So now we'll zoom back out, have a look at the whole image. Have a quick run around the edges, make sure that, yep, there's a little bit of a bokeh effect there that we don't really need. Some little specular highlight, so we'll grab our spot healing brush, select that, get rid of it, that's fine. There's a little mark on this wall here that's pretty distracting, so we'll get rid of that. That's a bolt for the door, we'll leave that one. That one's a little bit distracting, that one's a little bit distracting. And everything else is fine. This little white edge here is a bit of a distraction, it's a bit too bright. So we will grab our burn tool on highlights and low exposure. And just run across that like so. And again, on its brightest point, just taking it down into a grey tone so it's not fighting for attention. Maybe even the midtones as well as the highlights. There we go. Now it's a lot less distracting. And that's it. That's pretty much all we need to do. There's nothing else in here. We could go in and do these eyes, but I think they're plenty bright enough already. I don't see there's any real need to do anything more to them. That's it for the basics. So we just hit the red tab up here, hit save, fires it back into Lightroom as a TIFF, already stacked with our original file so we know where it came from. So this is our final image. We've got nice clean background, no sensor dust, we've taken care of that edge, nice smooth skin. So that's it. And if we want to see where we started from, we can click on here. That's where we started. That's where we finished. It's a subtle change, but it makes a lot of difference. That's what I would consider basic, every image, simple editing before doing anything else. That's my starting point. That's now an image that I'm happy to go to work on and create part of a set. Or even if I wasn't doing any kind of theme or any extra sort of heavy lifting in Photoshop or on one or anything like that, that would be my final finished image. Hope that was helpful. Give it a try. Go, rewatch the video. Make sure you're using all the right tools and stuff in Photoshop, and it will give you a good, solid, basic portrait retouching kit. So take it easy, and I'll see you in a future video.